Thank you very much for this great opportunity for me to be here with all of you, not just in all those roles that you mentioned, but the first time in a role of a keynote speaker. And it's a very great pleasure to transfer some of my recent experiences and thoughts about maturity of companies in application of big data analytics and information management in general. How I come to this topic, actually, from 2012, I started at my former institution with the creation of new study programs at bachelor and master level in information engineering, interesting data science. And I found some interesting things on that road, and those things needed some exploration. Why and how was it? And some of my findings that will be transferred to you today try to find some answers, or at least to find some hints how to do with those things in companies. So that's the motivation of my talk, today's talk. So just a little bit more about motivation. Okay, just to minimize for me. Okay, WebEx. Okay, you can see my presentation well, so I changed my slides. It's okay now. So what I can notice and what we can notice today, that current state in the area of data and the knowledge management in modern business is that we acquire and record enormous amounts of data. And practically, we are witnesses of exponential growth of the amount of collected data. Even I found some data that even 15 petabytes of new information is generated every day. And I found some comparison that it's 8 times more than the combined information in all the libraries of the United States. And about 80% of the data generated every day is textual and unstructured data. And by this, we can say that we are facing with the age of big data in general. It's nice part of the story. What we can also notice in many companies, in many organizations, is that data are a great value in supporting or researching the business goals. And big data is, by McKinsey, is the next frontier for innovation, competition, and productivity. And there is a clear recognition of needs for generating corporate knowledge from data that are showed by company management in well-managed companies. How? By means of application of quantitative analytical methods. Why? To be effectively used for decision processing, company management. And it's nice side of the story. But on the other hand side, what we can also recognize today is that we have those data typically unexploited in terms of worth of those data that they can bring with themselves. So data are typically operationally used in a short time frame, then they are archived and not used for creating company values. So tremendous amounts of data are available, but many institutions fail to make efficient use of those huge amounts of data or look for patterns in business just based on data analytics. What I also found is that it's simply because the business appetite for doing so in companies didn't exist. So it's reported by Gartner. Also, the main obstacle to use advanced data analytics is the lack of understanding how to apply it in a company. So we have a great discrepancy, and it's a great problem in modern business. Yes, we have IT capabilities. We have significant needs for generation of corporate knowledge from data. We can do that by modern technologies, but we feel somehow inability of modern software products to effectively address those needs. Or on the other hand side, we feel that we have investments in that area, but the return on investment in that investments is not very good as we could expect. And as we had some form of software crisis, which was present in software engineering for decades, from even early 70s now, we can say today that we are in a new form of software crisis that we can name today big data crisis. And the phenomenon is the same. We have investments, we have capabilities, we have needs, requirements, but something is going wrong, let's say, and we do not feel right effects from those investments. So I try to find why it's so. And what I found also as main general causes, let's say, one is unsatisfactory level of organization maturity in regard to the capacities for information management and corporate knowledge management in organizations, in terms of business processes and their institutionalization and quality management. And the other two factors are predominantly related to the problem of having appropriate knowledge in companies, knowledge about problem domains, and knowledge about domain on software engineering, how to develop software products that will address all those requirements in a good way. As it concerns all those factors, we can say that addressing big data crisis is a strategic task and long life task in many companies. And if we like to improve the things, we must simultaneously address all those factors. It's not just to say, yes, by this small movement, we will resolve everything. It's not the case, of course. As it concerns a lack of knowledge in companies about application of data science in various problem domains, I addressed that problem during creation of a study program in information engineering that I already mentioned. And what are some findings from those research in creating that study program? Yes, that we need interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary study programs, and this way to profile students' knowledge, to raise the level of abstraction and formalization skills, also to raise the level of students in quantification, application of quantifications, metrics, and analytical skills, and also improving the knowledge of specification and implementation skills, and above all, communication skills, which are not per se engineering skills, but skills that are very important to support all the other things together. So this is one part of the story, what academy can do in producing good engineers that are applicable to address the problems of big data crisis in modern times. Let's look a little bit now about some history, about some evaluation, how IT, how information technologies produced added value in some companies. And there are various viewpoints about that from early 50s till today. And by Gartner, I found 5 models of application of IT in raising the value added in companies. So the first model was automation model, which was primarily concerned to automating business processes and to some efforts how to lower the costs in production, how to automate routine functions. And of course, that phase is still present today. It's not a past. And from 90s, we have a new notion of enterprise resource planning systems that also contributed to this road. The next phase started in early 90s, and it's named augmentation phase. And that augmentation phase and augmentation business model was primarily concerned by making people more effective at non-routine tasks. And the notion of office automation appeared in those times. It augmented people's capabilities, enabled them to have more impact, and also to think how to increase productivity and increase return of investments in IT in general. And the first time IT becomes a great enabler of changes, but the role of IT is rather passive, let's say, and we will see that it's somehow passive, but very important still today. So the third model and third phase was e-commerce phase, and the phase from technological point of view related to Web 1.0. idea from 1997, approximately saying, and it's a phase of exploiting internet to automate existing business models and practices. And it's somehow a model which is very similar or the same, analogous to Model 1, but just concerned with services, with self-services, well-defined enterprise constitute and addressing well-defined enterprise constituents like customers, employees, vendors, and so on. So the first time the company somehow goes from inside to outside, but primarily it's inside. Model 4 means externalizing the business by Web 2.0 concepts of the enterprise and with integrating companies in ecosystem markets and with recognizes in a better way influencers on our own business, in our own company. So IT is used much more in that phase to sense and incorporate customer-related and to incorporate customers created ideas. So customer the first time is recognized with his or her active role in an influence to the company, and it's a first movement from outside to inside. Let's say look to the company, and the first time in that phase it's recognized a collective as a notion of all summarizing or aggregating all external signals that emerge from non-traditional internal sources like individuals, groups, communities, markets, firms, networks, and so on. So it existed also in former times, but the first time it has a more active and it's moved to a more active role in influencing the business of company. And by that, collective is a way to move from Model 4 to Model 5, model of business patterns, when we actively search for new patterns in our business and acting on those patterns. So we have increased organizational investments in specialized teams to watch for available sources of business changes, how we can change our business, our people, how we will put our information to generate the knowledge in a way to actively participate in a business and actively listen what environment of organization can say about some movements and some new trends. So it's a seeking for our novel patterns that emerge, evaluate the ways in which they could disrupt plans or propose specific courses of action to protect against or exploit these new patterns. So company in that model must be very sensitive to just weak signals, not just to recognize those weak signals, the first maybe to neglect them, or the other thing to recognize them as a normal noise. Those weak signals may be very, very important in realizing what would be in the future and how to transform my company to address the future in a good way. So if you look at all those models, we can see that we have inclusivity of those models. It means, yes, Model 2 is not a replacement of Model 1 and so on. So each new model includes everything from the previous model, but adds some new value. And as I already said, the models 1, 2, and 3 are internally oriented from inside of a company as a main point to outside. With models 5 and especially with models 4 and especially with model 5 today, we change our perspective from outside to in perspective. It means, okay, just collect all the signals and patterns that come from outside and see how we can proactively address all those signals in a good way in our company. So those moments lead us to a digital transformation era, and we can recognize this notion very well today. So what we can change to move from one model to the other model? As always, we can change what we have in our company. So we can change and improve, and so as to add some value by our models. We can change business models, culture, behavior of individuals, and of course, technology is also changed, and it's driving and driven by those changes. But what we can say today, technology is not the primary enabler of changes, but it's somehow always present here. So I found a very nice title of one book, which is a perfect parola, let's say, today for those new ages, saying that strategy, but not a technology, is that drives digital transformation. So technology will be used. Technology is better or worse, never mind. A strategy is that will address the problems and say how we can do proactive in the future and how we can provide a sustainable development of a company. So what further can be found in many literature and references that I found, over 100 of references that I found very, from my point of view, very relevant references, is that we need to think about capability of organization for applying big data analytics. So the first what I found important is to discuss that we have a notion of big data analytics and we have a notion of big data analytics capability. And those are not the same notions, and we have a strong differentiations between those two notions. So big data analytics is seen by Nikolai all collaborators as a new generation of technologies and architectures designed to economically extract value from very large volumes of a wide variety of data by enabling high velocity capture, discovery, and or analysis. On the other hand side, BDA capability is ability of a firm, company to capture and analyze data towards the generation of insights by effectively orchestrating and deploying its data, technology, and talent. So BDA capability is much more than just technology and architectures. And the main concern of this part of my talk is about BDA capability now. So we are witnesses of a great hype in big data processing and considerable investments in organizations, how to transform big data to create a value, how to generate actionable insights from data, and finally, how to transform their businesses by digital transformation and stay competitive on the market. But considerable number of organizations fail to gain a value from their big data investments, and I found it also in literature, not just by some empirical experience. And even companies fail to understand that more data only does not bring inevitably a more value. So it's not just to enlarge amount of data and everything would be resolved. No. So we often have applications of biased analytical instruments. We also always are in a problem of poor data quality, poor filtering between the signal and the noise of our big data, as more data brings some more noise also. So even in some companies, it's found in literature that even some companies argue that big data may hurt rather than help a company, which is very interesting finding today. So what also can be found in many references is that organization with preserved high levels of big data analytics capability, this maturity, perform better than those with lower levels. What does it mean? We have a strong necessity in organizations to implement some capability model or maturity model for big data analytics. Yes, it's investment primarily in knowledge, in time, in money. It's not cheap, of course, but it's the only way to lower risks and raise the level of probability of a success in application of big data analytics in many organizations. So we have more than 100 information system maturity models in practice, and some of them are very, let's say, recognizable and important. One is by Nolan from 1973, Stages of Growth Model, and the other one is very well-known Capability Maturity Model Integration with some previous versions that were primarily concerned with software engineering, but they evolved later on in Capability Maturity Model integrated over the whole organization. So big data analytics maturity models evolved from those information system maturity models, and we have also several such models. Some of them are proposed by academy, some of them are proposed by vendors, and I just listed here some of those maturity models. One is Watson stage perspective data warehouse maturity model, and it was one of the first models of that kind from 2001. So also very well known a stage perspective PDA maturity model with 5 stages by Davenport and Harris from 2007. So there are some models proposed by Teradata and Gartner as company models, and they are also effective. So there is a continuous perspective PDA maturity model by Larman and collaborators, and business analytics capability maturity model by Chosic and his collaborators, which is theoretically based. And I will put a little bit more attention also on that model as some other two selected models. So the authors of that BACMM model declare it as a holistic view of the data analytics, which includes technology, people, culture, and governance as dimensions. So it's contextual maturity model. It means it's not only staged and only continuous model, but we can have a mix of both those approaches in general. And it's created on a reference of a resource-based view and dynamic capabilities approach in creation of that model. So by resource-based view, organization and also IT resources are the basis for improved performance and sustainable competitive advantage. But by that approach, by that philosophical approach to resources, they say that resources must be valuable. It means that enable an organization to implement a value-creating strategy. They should be rare. So it means in short supply. So I have in my hands something that it cannot be bought everywhere on the market. So they should be inimitable. So cannot be perfectly duplicated by our rivals and competition, and non-substitutable. They cannot be countered by a competitor with a substitute. So in that case, we have a value in our hands, and we can put that value in creating our business value. So dynamic capabilities approach, which is also used on the top of RBV, means that our resources are renewable by reconfiguring and renewing into new organizational capabilities. So Chosic and all find 4 capability areas or dimensions in evaluating business analytics capabilities of a company. It's governance, which means decision rights, strategic alignment, the dynamic business analytics capabilities, change management. Also culture dimension, which is further decomposed to evidence-based management, awareness, executive leadership and support, and flexibility and agility. So technology, which includes data management, system integration, reporting, visualization, technology, discovery, technology, and so on. And people, which is addressed more to technology skills and knowledge, business skills and knowledge, and management skills and knowledge, with entrepreneurship and innovation skills of people. So they recognize 5 levels of capability, and they are somehow differ from typical CMMI maturity or capability levels, from non-existent to optimized. Those are, let's say, crisp levels, but their criteria are primarily concerned what's the possible level of improvements. If we have some level of improvement and some or some more level of improvement, we are at the intermediate level. If the room for improvement is narrower, then we are on advanced level, and optimized means ideally in this way, even there is no room for improvement. We can discuss about that, but their model is with those 5 levels of capability. So by some other model that I found by Cheon also, capability reference model for big data analytics. They recognize 5 maturity levels, which correspond very strongly to CMMI maturity levels. The first is ad hoc, meaning that procedures and processes can be performed in any way, no way how. Repeatable, we guarantee some qualitative level of management of our processes. So the third maturity level is a level named as defined, which means that our processes are clearly defined as an asset of a company. So managed means quantitatively managed. We are capable in our company to perform our big data analytics processes in a way to keep to some quantitatively managed indicators, and we can keep for a longer time to those quantitative indicators. And optimizing level means that we even can improve our quantitative indicators. Those should be KPA, but not just KPA, generally performance indicators. It means that if we have some borders set at the managed level, we can narrow those borders and make the things more stronger at the optimizing level. So they also recognize 5 key dimensions or perspectives. Those are organization, resources, infrastructure, people, and analytics perspective, and they decompose those perspectives further. So for organization, big data leadership, big data strategy, analytical culture, and data governance are important. In resources, data management, data integrity, and data security. In infrastructure, big data platform, data management technology. For people, training, big data skills, business IT alignment. And for analytics, data analysis and data visualization. So we see that we have some overlapping between models, but also there is some unique, let's say, some specificity in each of those models of each authors. Let's say the most comprehensive model that I found in literature is BDA capability research framework, proposed by Nikolai and his collaborators also. And what's important in that model is the authors strongly stress the importance of contextual features in measuring and evaluating BDA capability of a company. So they find 7 sets of constructs or categories, variables or resources in terminology. 6 of them are independent causal categories, and the 7th one is performance. It's a dependent category, and we will decompose a little bit later data, technology, people, organization, process, and context constructs that they propose in their research. So in data context, they assess the extent to which an organization has access to large, unstructured, and fast-moving data, and degree to which it integrates its internal and external data. At the level of technology perspective, they assess whether an organization possesses the necessary data storage technologies, data visualization tools, and other complementary cloud-based open source data analytics infrastructure. Let's look at the people dimension or people category. So they measure the degree of the specific skills of big data analytics knowledge about technical skills and managerial skills. So they differentiate those 2 skills. Also, they measure how the skills can contribute to accomplish the job successfully. They measure suitability and capacities for training and education in companies, and managers' knowledge about BDA applications. And what's the most important from my point of view, it's understanding the business needs of different functional areas and BDA opportunities. How to join the one word of managers and one word of those giving requirements, and the word of analytics people and IT people fulfilling all those needs and requirements, and how to evaluate the output expected from big data. At the organization perspective, they assess organization within some BDA operations at the level of so-called structural practices, relational practices, and data-driven culture. For structural practices, they are concerned about decision makers that are IT or non-IT decision makers, their roles, responsibilities for data ownership, value analysis, cost management, setting policy standards for protecting and using data. In relationship practices, they are concerned primarily about the links between employees of technical side and business side in company, how they can cooperate, how they can be synchronized, how they can exchange and share their ideas, how they are ready to participate in interdisciplinary oriented processes of strategic planning, education, training, and so on. And data-driven culture in companies is also important by recognition that data is a tangible asset, and how organizational decisions are made based on the insight of extracted data, but rather than just using pure instinct. And what's important in that research that I found, not all those perspectives are equally important in all contexts, and we will discuss it a little bit later. So, at the level of processes, they assess the level of managing and leveraging data in order to generate insights. So they assess procedural practices that are concerned about data and big data governance in the company. And context means what are the characteristics of my company. So they find that company size is influential, and they divide companies into 4 classes of micro, small, medium, and large companies by some European standards of numbers of employees. So they also assess uncertainty of the external environment, the degree of unpredictability and imperfect knowledge about the environment reflected by 3 categories: dynamism, heterogeneity, and hostility. With dynamism, how rate and unpredictability of environmental change influences. So heterogeneity, complexity, and diversity of external factors, and hostility is about competition and external environment in terms of risks to the company. And the 7th dependent category is performance, and typically what they can measure is profitability, market share growth, innovativeness, cost leadership, delivery cycle time, so as to assess the level of BDA and its influence to those performances that they isolated here. So they applied their method of qualitative, as I said, qualitative comparative analysis, but it's important that it's based on complexity theory, which is a holistic view to the company as a whole and by some empirical approach. And they also performed some 3 case studies to empirical studies to uncover how significant resources are to impact some performances of the company. And they isolated 4 clusters of companies by their research, which was primarily concerned by companies in Greece. But they analyzed more than 170 companies, which is a very huge number to analyze in some research, some academic research. So they found the 2 larger groups of companies divided by context of uncertainty. In A class are the companies with lower uncertainty, absence of heterogeneity, and low complexity. In B class of companies, we have companies with higher uncertainty and high dynamism, and typically in A class are consumer goods, media, transport, and industrial companies. So in a big context, we have banking and financial sector, oil and gas companies. So both those classes of companies are further developed to larger companies and small enterprises and medium enterprises. So by this, we obtain 4 clusters of companies. And let's look at this table here, also reported in the same paper. So in the first class of companies with lower uncertainty, we have the first column of large companies, the second column of small and medium enterprises, and in B class of companies with higher uncertainty, higher dynamism, we have also larger companies and smaller and medium companies. So what we can see, data dimension is present in all those clusters of companies. It's always very important. And what we can see, with companies with lower uncertainty and not so complex environment, technology is important. Also, for B class of companies and smaller companies in A class, managerial skills are important. So we can say that managerial skills are almost always important, while technological skills like data dimension are important for all companies. So technology is more important for A class of companies, but if we have higher uncertainty, so organizational capabilities become much more important. Structural practices in those cases are always important, but for smaller companies, relational practices, it means links between people and sharing ideas is important, but in larger companies, data-driven culture is very important. And what we can also see, maturity of processes in company and procedural practices are important almost in all clusters. So we see some differences and we see some common dimensions that can be avoided in any assessment of maturity or capability of companies for big data analytics. So in their 3 case studies, they find that BDA strategy is very important so as to enable attaining performance gains in companies. Also, what they found in their empirical studies is organizational inertia as a resistance to change, and it's encountered at multiple levels of companies and in different phases of implementation of some BD project. Also, one important issue is ethics and legislation. So they do not see that GDPR in European area is some barrier, but it's an opportunity. But anyway, by GDPR, ethics and legislation became much more stronger in their requirements. So if we need to assess maturity of some company for big data analytics, now we need also to see what we can do and how we will meet some new issues and some new motives for for digital transformations in companies. So also found some research that addressed those problems. So how to create power of organization for digital transformation today. So if we like as a company to meet digital transformation in a good way, it means scaling from some digital experiments and pilots in companies of digital best practices to some regular practices. So some research that I've also found reported in that reference has that the most successful worldwide organizations are those in which 93% of chief information officers lead adaptive and open organizations. Also, that research, there are some figures about some emerging countries like Serbia, and they also performed some research in Serbia. And they found that at least a half of chief information officers being examined in that research still did not initiate a digital transformation process in their companies. They just considered digital transformation as a possibility, but 95% of all of them expect significant changes in their job in both parts, in a part of technology and in a part of company goals and changes in business requirements. So they are mentally aware about future changes and emerging changes. On the other hand side, a little is done on that way. And let's say that those emerging countries are at least 3 to 5 years behind well-developed organizations, countries in terms of digital transformation. And what digital transformation today undertakes? It means developing new digital platforms of business. And there is some analogy that says, okay, from a model of a transformation from business as a system is to business as a platform. It means that our digital platform or our company would be some ecosystem which is a layered platform consisting of those 5 layers here, from IT infrastructure platform, delivery platform, the talent platform, leadership platform, and business model platform. The main characteristics of our digital platform is that it should be designed as a multidisciplinary oriented, dynamically coupled with a possibility of easy adaptation. They need to have a capability of learning and reconfiguration and easily extensible with porous borders to the ecosystem environment. And the focus of IT sector is on the first 2 platforms, IT and delivery platforms. And the delivery platform could be modeled today. One mode is that it could be mostly predictable, means higher certainty, clearly defined goals, causes, outcomes, easy to predict and plan. Mode 2 is exploratory oriented. It means my company is with high uncertainty, not stable, performing business in not stable conditions or even not clear requirements, and we are witnesses of all of that in those areas today that started with COVID and continued with very bad strategic things that we have now in the territory of Europe. So, how to develop a digital platform? There is no recipe. There is no silver bullet. It's a unique venture in each organization. You cannot buy it anywhere. You must develop it by yourself in your company. Okay, some consultants can help, but you must develop it. No one will do it for you. So what are the 2 mandatory pillars, let's say, requirements for developing a digital platform? One is to integrate business and IT needs and requirements, and the other one, establishing a clear collective vision of the company management. It means we must share the same values in the company to share the same strategic value. So chief executive officers in researches that are reported in those references mostly declare that increasing revenues is the main goal of all companies. So it's always how we will increase revenue in a company by our digital transformation model. And what is an axiom? Not to enter into just small changes, but go somehow revolutionary, which is not very always, let's say, seen as a good option in engineering. So in some surveys, about 80% corporate strategists report reinvention of their strategies by finding new revenue sources in new ways. So what we can reinvent in our business, those are the dimensions of value of company that it products and services that it products, base of clients, business capabilities, and profit model. It's a model of discontinuity, not a model of small, let's say, smooth changes in company. Why? By those researches, incremental model as a smooth model is long-lasting, and by some researchers in companies that they face the problem of digital transformation by incremental model say that after 12 months invested in digital transformation, they gained just approximately 16% of their declared transformation goals. It's very low. So many organizations on the other hand side just perform small steps, and it will not work in digital era. So why? By references to previous experience and historical assumptions, management and people in companies primarily will believe that their business model is perfect, that they need some small adjustments. On the other hand side, we need a reconsideration of the current business model in a much more drastic way to find new opportunities to position a company in the market in future time. So here on this table, just briefly, I will say that a role of chief information officer in organization will drastically change. For example, from more operational tasks, they will be more strategic oriented. From process engineering, they will move to data utilization problem. From focus on IT outcomes, they they need to shift their focus on business outcomes. From focus on IT risks, they will shift their focus on business risks. I will not discuss everything of that here, just not to lose time on that, but just to say, yes, it's important to know that chief information officers are the people with much more skills and capabilities for new roles in digital transformation. So what we can say as some final notes at the end of my today's talk is that addressing data crisis causes is a strategic and long life task. It's effective by establishing and following the appropriate business strategy, and some advices, especially by Gartner, are to move towards pattern-based strategy, as I already mentioned, as a model 5 in evolution of creating IT business values. So by simultaneous addressing of all its significant causes in a systematic way and move from currently predominant data collection and data engineering process to BDA processes. What does it mean? Okay, background processes must exist, but they are not purposes by themselves. So BDA processes can create a value. So the systematic improving of BDA capabilities is necessary by application of some maturity models. And so as to gain an edge over competition and stable position on the market, we can say that who controls the data, who controls the client base, it will be a winner in that situation. So this success is crucial. So considering business models of selling own data is also important, and exchanging data in supply chains is important because collecting data and just how to acquire data is a very important step in digital transformation. So we need sometimes radical changes in our business model. We need to apply some level of discontinuity of changes in our model, and leaders of functional units play a crucial role in that. So what are the questions that those leaders need to put and to find answers? How my team can contribute to critical capabilities for a competition in future business models? I'm not with a passive role anymore as a leader of my team in company. Whether my team digital initiatives target just current and future business performances. How my people are involved in a research of future business models in company. How to activize people, not to have so much passivized actors in that process. And how is it possible to create a smaller, discrete initiatives of that way to approach new values faster, not to approach a model. Let's say, okay, we will enter digital transformation, and in 3 years, we will be fully digitally transformed, and in that way of 3 years, we will wait. So it's not a way. We need to feel the effects of our changes almost on a daily level or weekly level or monthly level, but not to wait for 3 years and something will suddenly happen in 3 years. It will not happen at all. So just to mention some people that very helped me in creating my presentations, those are Professor Petar Kočović, Professor Vladimir Ranković, Professor Boris Delibašić, and Assistant Professor Sandro Radovanović from various faculties from my environment. And thank you to all of them for preparing me to be let's say, more proactive in creating this presentation. Here, just briefly, this is a list of references that I consulted for today's presentation, and much more of them are also available to all of you who are interested in continuing this research. Thank you very much for your attention, and now I'm ready for a discussion now if there are any questions, of course.
Okay, whoever wants to ask a question, you can just do it, or you can raise your hand. There's this little thingy that allows you to raise hand. Thank you for this challenging presentation, because it is full of challenges, and it shows that when you try to move from dreaming about big data to actually using big data, and not using big data to publish yet another paper about how great big data is, but actually put it in your company to make it work, then it is tough. The main message I'm getting from you is that it is not, like Beam and I have big data, I just apply deep learning to my big data and everybody will be living happily ever after.
And
Do
me
I get the
personally,
main message right?
yes, exactly like that. And even what was my practice in academy environment when I advise my students for their masterworks, PhD thesis, of course, now I always force them to start from declared values. So they typically will create their goals of their master thesis. Let's say my goal is to develop something. When I read that word, my goal is to develop something, I say, stop. No, you are on a wrong way. You must develop something just to fulfill your goal, but your goal is a value. Please give me a value now to know what we are doing then for. It's important. And it's a way of thinking. Uh, Personally, I needed time to come to that. It was not so in my early ages of my academic career. And I believe that we must somehow advise our students to think in that way when they come to companies to recognize that value and share common values in companies.
Yeah, is there anybody here among you in the audience who is actually trying to put data-driven solutions into companies and could comment on this presentation? I would like to encourage you. I'm not sure if Dominic, you are here, but I think that you may have some experience that are pertinent to this topic. If you are connected. Oh yeah, Dominic just unmuted himself, so he's here.
I will be happy to discuss maybe during lunch if we meet or during dinner because there are many interesting insights in your talk, Ivan, and I will be happy to share my experiences as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
What I can also say from my practice, maybe what I noticed as I luckily or unluckily, I believe luckily, I work at faculties of economics and management, at faculties of mathematics and science, and faculties engineering faculties in computer, electrical and computer engineering. So what I found were three completely different patterns of way of thinking. So mathematicians will say, my complexity is in proving of theorems. I will prove this. I will introduce some assumptions, but some axioms. For what does it serve? Never mind. So people from engineering say, okay, one new more technology environment. I'm very happy to know Python now. I'm very happy to know how I will use my development framework for this. So much clicks. It's so exciting. And don't ask me about mathematics. I'm too practitioner, so I don't like mathematics at all. And the managerial people will say, I'm aware that I must resolve my problem. And to do that, I will rent mathematicians and engineers. And who will join those three unjoinable words? That's the question. So it's a way to develop a culture of interdisciplinarity and communication between different problem domains and different professions very early in that process. And I think that the reflections of that process are present in companies also. I'm just responsible for this and don't ask me about anything else in the company more. So the other thing will say so, and nobody will take care about interfaces
Yeah,
in
I
communications.
like, I like the way that you framed it, the culture of interdisciplinarity, and this I will go into some for a moment in completely different direction, but in the academia, what you describe is also a problem. It's a problem for a faculty member who um, is trying to be interdisciplinary. And okay, Michał, I will let you say something in a moment, but let me finish my thought. That when we are evaluating faculty members, so often we are running into the situation when you have somebody who is an engineer, who is looking into those interdisciplinary attempts and is saying, well, but what the heck, who cares about all these business models and so on? It's an engineering problem, and this faculty is not good enough because he doesn't do or she doesn't do enough of engineering, not taking into account that you cannot solve it alone, and it will not be practical. Engineering is not enough, business models are not enough, humanity, soft skills, everything that is related to human resources is also important. And now I'm gonna shut up, and Michał, floor is yours.
So from my perspective, this problem with data management is the problem that we have, and making database decision is that we have different groups of interests. So the people who are putting the data in the systems are mostly interested in day-to-day operations, right? So they often make certain shortcuts. Even if the management is aware of the fact that they are making a shortcut and tries to deliver better software for them, the end result is usually that they not use software at all, or they sort of use it, but the real useful data is moved to Excel spreadsheets, and then you are basically left, if you come and do analytics, if you come and do knowledge-based decisions, there is no knowledge in the company. So I think that the challenge is balancing this restriction that we put on the people who are actually doing business in terms of they putting useful data with the needs of analytics. I think that a lot of systems that are currently in place need to be totally refurbished for the purpose of using them in any artificial intelligence in a broad sense, system. Okay, just a comment on the, well, on the things we are actually doing right now, also with Dominic, so yeah.
Michał, thank you very much. If I can comment, I can say, yes, from my point of view, you are quite right. And those two things that you mentioned are the two sides of the same coin. Why? I found also in some of my researches, when I justified a need for a study program in information engineering and data science, that many practitioners in companies reported that data analytics come down just the operational level in companies. And managers of those companies are very perfectly satisfied with that. If they're very perfectly satisfied with that, why even something more than Excel? It's perfect for that. Yes, of course, we know that it's not the case, but that's why we need a strategy and data culture, which is spread not only among engineers and technicians, but among managers to know what really can obtain from that process and how the dimensions of their business can be changed in that, because they're just satisfied with their current level in their organizations, and please don't touch anything, everything works well, and nobody asks if it will work well in 5 years or 10 years.
So, Ivan, thank you very much. And we will see each other tonight, so we will have a chance to talk more about this. And I know that Dominic is itching to have a nice chat with you over some Bulgarian food and wine. So, see you guys. This session is closed, and we are restarting in an hour, and Maria will be working diligently to start 5 tracks because we are again 5 wide. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you very much for this kind opportunity. We'll see you.